Hi, I'm Beth in Texas, and this video here I'm going to tell you how I made this tote bag. I am not doing your traditional tutorial for it. I am going to just explain to you what I did. And if you know how to single crochet and chain and how to sew things on using a back stitch, you got it, okay? And anything made with Plarn, you can use kitchen cotton, or this is Handicap Crafter cotton. It's a little slightly lighter weight than this is the Peaches and Cream cotton. So if you'd rather use a cotton, go ahead and do that. There's a lot of other yarns you could use. It's something that's not too stretchy is what you're going to want. Okay, and when you make your Plarn, you're going to have to get a handful of crochet hooks and just try a little piece just to see which ones are going to work for you, because if you use a hook that's too small, you cannot work your stitches. It's going to hurt your hands. If you get one that's too big, you're going to have holes and it'll be too stretchy. So you kind of have to play with it and get the right texture. Let me get to how I did this. What I did was I made a chain the width of the bag, and just a little smaller than the width of the bag. This chain here was 15 inches long. And I single crocheted across the chain, then I put 2 or 3 single crochet in the ends, I don't even remember, and then work back across the other side of the chain. And instead of slip stitching and chaining one, I'm working in a spiral. So in the ends of the first row, I have 2 or 3 stitches in each end stitch. And you do that. Now see, this one here is just real flat. If you want one with a flat bottom, you just increase for more rows. So in the ends, you put 2 or 3 stitches in the end stitch. And then you keep going around in a spiral without increasing until the bag is the height you want. Now in this case, my bag measures 12.5 inches. And I stopped because I had run out of this particular kind of yarn. All I had left was the stuff from the chip bags, which is a little heavier than what I used toward the top of this. Okay, so once you have that done, you'll have this great big pocket. All right. Then what I did to get the length for this handle, this is one continual loop. It comes up underneath, goes around and up around the loop and back around. I measured, this is how I figured it out. You can make it whatever length you want. But I measured the length of the bag, which is 12.5. So it's 25 inches. You're going to need twice because, okay, 12.5 twice for this strip. 12.5 twice for this strip. And then I want to double that because I wanted my handles as long as the bag is tall. So that's how I figured out how long to make my handle strip. And all I did was make a long chain, the length I wanted, and then I worked back across that chain for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And at the end of the 5th row, I folded the strip in half and then I sewed the 2 ends together with the tail of the Plarn. Okay, so now I have a big loop. And then what I did was I folded the loop in half, and then I folded it in half again, and then I took the 2 ends from the second folding in half, and that was what's on the bottom of the bag, and I used stitch markers and pinned it in place right there. And I eyeballed excuse me, I eyeballed on how far from the edge to make it, and I measured it so that it would be consistent all the way down the side. And I made this edge of the strap 3.5 inches from this edge of the bag. And I pinned it all in place with real long quilting pins. Some of them bent and broke, I mean, because the stuff is tough. Then I took size 10 crochet cotton and a large-eyed tapestry needle, not quite as big as the one I use for the yarn, but a little bit smaller. And I used a back stitch along the edge of the strap to hold it in place after I pinned them down. And you have to have one hand inside the bag and one on the outside to do this back stitch, because to weave it the way you would normally do a back stitch, this yarn is just way too stiff. So I'm going to show you the inside, what those stitches look like. See, that's what they look on the inside, but when you do the back stitch, you're going around the stitch on the front and you can't see the stitching. So now the next part is up to you. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do, if I'm going to line it or not. But if you're going to line it, again, you want to hand stitch around the top edge to put it in place. I would make my lining by measuring the bag here, making your long rectangle the width of the bag, but twice as long as your bag is tall, and add a little bit for the hem, add a little bit for your side seams, sew it on your sewing machine, and then come back by hand and sew it in place. And with the lining, you don't need to use the heavier crochet cotton, because the bag itself is going to support the weight of whatever you carry. You can use regular sewing thread there. So that is how I made this tote bag. So happy crocheting, and I'd love to see video responses to what you've done with your Plarn.